Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Math Made Easy. I think I'm going to call my YouTube channel that, with Miss Freeland. Today, we're continuing our conversation about fractions with lesson 6-7 on multiplying a fraction by a whole number. If you joined me yesterday for small group, we were able to work through a few examples using drawings, using illustrations, and using just some quick multiplication skills to do this work. I'd like to take a minute just to kind of review that work with you in our math journal so that you can be as successful as possible with your worksheet 6-7 today. You're going to need your math notebook, worksheet 6-7, and a pencil. So please gather those materials now. All right, everyone. Hopefully you were able to find that next empty sheet in your spiral notebook. At the top, I have written lesson 7, multiply fractions by a whole number. If you remember in our small group yesterday, if you're able to jump on and participate, we worked through this multiplying for fractions by a whole number practice worksheet. We did some drawings, we did some illustrations, we did some just addition, subtraction questions, not really subtraction, addition questions, and we worked through just kind of all the different ways you could look at multiplying a fraction by a whole number. I'd like to take a minute and review 2 of those strategies. You know I'm not a big fan of drawing the pictures, but we did do a couple of those. But I'd like to work through some of that repeated addition, but then also doing just that quick multiplication skill. If you need some additional help, some additional practice, or some additional examples, remember you can always go back to your workbook. Starting on page 215, you have a resource there with some samples, with some example problems that you and a family member might take a look at if you're having some trouble with this. Okay, so just starting off with just some simple using unit fractions, so using those fractions with that numerator of 1. If we think about things like 2 times 1/3. What we're thinking about there is I have 2 groups of, because we know that of means times. Remember, Bradley Chalkers taught us that. We have 2 groups of 1/3. If I wanted to think about that as an addition problem, that would be taking 1/3 plus 1/3, making those 2 groups of 1/3, and quickly adding them together for 2/3. If I thought about this with multiplication, it's multiplying this whole number times that numerator. I have 2 whole groups of 1 part out of 3, where 2 times 1 is 2, and my denominator, as you can see, has remained those third size pieces. It's remained a 3. Trying another one, maybe going a little bit more tricky. 6 times 1/5. Again, using repeated addition, if I have 6 whole groups of, because of means times, 1/5, that's like saying I have 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. My hand is getting tired. I'm running out of room. Plus 1/5 equals, where I would do 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. I could probably find a second grader to help me with that math, ending up with 6/5. When I get an improper fraction, though, I need to make that quick conversion to 1 1/5, making that improper fraction into a mixed number. If I wanted to think about it as quick multiplication, I would have taken 6 wholes times that numerator, that 1, where 6 times 1 is 6, and my denominator, again, still remains the same in those 5th size pieces. Okay, I can turn those fractions around by putting the whole number after the fractional part. If I wanted to, I could write something like 1/8 times 10. But again, that changes none of the math and it changes none of the thinking. I have still 10 whole groups of 1/8, because multiplication is that I can flip it and still have that universal number. So 1/8, oh Lord, I don't want to write 1/8 10 times. Do you? I think I'm just going to do it the short way. I'm going to take 10 whole groups of 1, where 10 times 1 is 10, and I'm going to roll that numerator right along, keeping it the same. 1/8 times 10 would be 10/8, which would be the same as 1 and 2/8. Okay? So initially, we started very simply, and we were using just those unit fractions of 1/3, 1/5, 1/8, where our numerator was always that 1. But we can do some more complex problems by changing that numerator. When we change the numerator, the math really doesn't change either. Let's try 4 times 3/8. So again, if I wanted to look at this as repeated addition, I would say I had 4 groups of 3/8. 3/8 plus 3/8 plus 3/8 plus 3/8. Adding those 3's together, 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9, plus 3 is 12, 8ths. Recognizing that that is an improper fraction, I would need to change it into a mixed number. 8 will go into 12 one whole time. If I remove 8 from 12, I'm left with 4, and my denominator stays the same. I end up with 1 and 4/8. Okay, if I want to think about that as repeated multiplication, or not repeated multiplication, but just multiplication, I would still stick with 4 wholes times 3 in each group. 4 times 3 would give me that 12. 8 would stay my denominator, and then I would still need to change the improper fraction into a mixed number. Okay. I'm going to write a couple more here for you to try. If you need to do it with repeated addition, please go right ahead. Remember, the number out front tells me how many groups of that fraction I'm going to write and how many of them are going to add together. If you're able to do it multiplication-wise, remember it's the whole group times just that numerator, the number of parts in each of those pieces, and then the denominator rolls along. And I need to convert improper fractions into mixed numbers. So let's try a few more. 8 times 3/4. Let's do 5/7 times 4. I'm going to pause the video. You may too, to work those out, and I'll be right back to work them out with you. All right, hopefully you had enough time and took enough skill to work out both of those examples. Working out 8 times 3/4. I know I could have written 3/4 8 times, but Lord knows Miss Freeland does not like to write things repeatedly. She would rather do it 4th grade style and use her multiplication skills. So I'm going to say I have 8 whole groups of 3, which is 24 over 4. I have 24/4. I know that 24/4 is an improper fraction, so I'm going to do a quick division problem. If you need to, remember, set up that division problem. 4 will go into 24 6 times, because 6 times 4 is 24. Subtract my remainder of 0. This tells me that I have 6 whole and 0/4 remaining. You don't need to write the 0/4 unless you'd really like to, but the answer would be 6 wholes and no fractional parts. In the second example, again, using multiplication, I would remember that I would have 4 whole groups of 5. Notice how I always start with the whole and kind of work my way towards that numerator. Start with the whole, work to the numerator. Well, 4 times 5 is 20. So that would give me 20/7. And recognizing, again, an improper fraction, I'm going to count by 7 to get up to 20. Well, 7, 14, I cannot go to 21. So I know that's only 2 wholes, 2 times 7 is 14. Pulling 14 out of 20, I'm left with 6 sevenths. My answer here would give the fraction 2 and 6 sevenths. So hopefully with our conversations yesterday and our practice yesterday with pictures, repeated addition, our understanding that we're taking part of a whole number and why we're always getting a smaller number than what we started with, hopefully all of that is starting to sink in and starting to come pretty naturally and pretty quickly to you. So just moving this off to the side and taking a look at our assignment today, they give you a ton of that multiply practice. So questions 1 through 15 are all multiplying that whole number times that fractional part. You can use scrap paper to write it out using addition, or you can use just your brain cells and use your noggin to actually do the math right on the paper. 16 through 20 are the same type of skill. They're just using word problems. They're putting things into story problems. So you can show your work kind of here off to the side, or again, use some additional scrap paper. Looking at the back side of today's assignment, we have a couple of questions that say to use an equation to solve. So these are those multiple step story problems that you might need to do 1 step, 2 steps, or 3 steps using different operations to actually solve the story problem. So take your time, write out, draw a picture if you need to, and think about those. Questions 3 and 4 have you converting yards to feet or feet to inches. But again, these are our measurement review questions. So these two are not assigned as we skipped Unit 5 to move on into fractions. The bottom part of the page, we have some add or subtract review with our fractions and our mixed numbers. And we also have question 11 that talks about some fractions of time. I would like you to give that number 11 stretch your thinking a try. So hopefully you were able to work through the assignment with me today. I'm planning on seeing you later this week back face-to-face with all of your math assignments for this remote learning in that purple folder and ready to be turned into our math tray. So good luck. If you need me, ask me some questions, reach out and for help, and I'm happy to help with whatever you might need. Thank you very much and have a great day.